And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and I am excited to be back on all of our platforms that we are on. Disrupt Ed TV, here live on Facebook, going to iTunes, and certainly all of the social medias. It has been a while. July 1st was my last show, so I was away a couple of weeks. I was at the National Principals Conference, and so it's been a few weeks since I've been on, so really excited to be back. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you are liking the show, if you subscribe, leave us a positive comment on iTunes or certainly here on Facebook. That would be great. And if you're watching live tonight, we'd love to hear from you. Put a question into us, myself. And tonight's guest is April DeMarco. April is a student in the New Paltz Leadership Program. She is getting her certifications in New York and will be certified next year. And we're going to ask her if she's going to be going for a job or not. She loves her job as an art educator, so we will be talking about that soon. I do want to thank today's sponsor of the show. That is the Coaching and Leadership Journal. This is by my friend Dan Spanauer, and I'm holding the May version of the journal here because the July one I loaned to somebody because there was such great articles in it that I gave it to somebody at my school, so I got to get that back. But the Coaching and Leadership Journal is a great resource for school teachers, for leaders. There's a ton of great stories in here. Look how many pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, and it's like a thick page. I do like this. Great stories. So this one was from May. Leaders can learn from great teachers was the opening article, and there's a number of great leadership points in here. So check it out, Coaching and Leadership Journal. You could find this at the leadershippublishingteam.com, Dan Spanauer, and he was nice enough to offer a discount. That code is Murata20. You could punch that in, and you'll get a 20% off discount. It is $150 for the year. Dan's contact information is, get that there if you see it. But he will give you 20% off the Coaching and Leadership Journal. Check him out. Thank you so much, Dan, for sponsoring the program. So back to it. Today's show, we're going to meet April DeMarco. Again, April is a student at the New Paltz Leadership School of Education, and I actually met her at one of the leadership forums they had there on July 1st. Her cohort was there. It was a great group of educators, and we had a great experience and a great session there, the Surviving and Thriving. So I got to thinking about the show and new leaders and certainly interns, right? When you have an intern, what are some things that you do to support that person? What are some things that you do as a school leader to inspire that person? And I just jotted down a couple of things. Certainly mastery, autonomy, and purpose from the great Simon Sinek's TED Talk, right? What motivates people? What inspires people? Mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And I try to do those three things with my interns, with my new school leaders, because the work that they're doing should be authentic to them. It should be meaningful to them, and it should have a purpose, but you want to let them do it in the way that they believe is best, right? We want to try not to micromanage those interns, kind of turn them loose. So that is one philosophy I certainly do. Second is opportunities, right? I want to give these people opportunities, and I'm going to ask April about her internship and how it's going for her. But opportunities to speak, opportunities to write real letters to parents, opportunities to have phone calls and meetings with parents and students. And I just kind of let them go, right? I want things done a certain way. People that know me, people that work with me certainly would agree with that. But I want these new school leaders to figure it out on their own. And I want to give them opportunities, which leads to my next point is don't rescue them. Right? If they're working along and they're doing things, certainly you want to give some guidance and some pointers along the way. But if they're digging themselves a hole, what's the best way to learn how to figure that out? You got to get yourself out of it, right? I'll never forget when I was in school. Yes, guilty. I did get in trouble once, just once. But I called. I told my dad I was suspended on the phone. There was a food fight in the cafeteria, and yeah, I got involved. And my dad said, "You got yourself in trouble. You get out of it." And he hung up the phone. And I never forgot that. The principal was looking at me like, "What? Your dad just, hung up the phone?" I'm like, "Yeah." So your intern is going to do great things. Your new school leader is going to do great things. But you got to let them make mistakes too. They got to, whether it's a parent that's scolding them or yelling at them, or a teacher that's upset because they did something wrong, you can't fix everything for that person. They got to kind of figure it out on their own, and that's the best way to learn. So just a couple points about working with interns that are some of my philosophies, but give those people opportunities. And if you have a chance to have an intern, you should do it, because people like April need that, and they deserve that, right, to work with a school leader. So again, if you are watching the show live, leave us a question or comment tonight. But I talk too much. Let's bring April in here. Boom, there she is, the great April DeMarco. Welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on, April. And again, we had a chance to meet at New Paltz, and you are currently a student in the New Paltz Leadership Program, correct?
I am. It's a fast track program, and I'll be done in May of 2020.
Very cool. April, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your story and, kind of what led you to enter that program.
Okay, so I am an art teacher, and I find that I have some insecurities, because I think that some people interviewing me might have some, preconceived ideas about the limitations of a specials teacher turning into an administration position. So I'm kind of working through that and thinking about how that might be received, and some different reactions that I'm getting, because the art department is so different from the rest of the building. But, we can get into that part later. So I am an art teacher. I first started at a Saturday art school in Brooklyn in '92, and I had my first full-time teaching position at North Rockland Central School District in '96, received my first tenure in '99. And after, a decade or so, I took some time off, to be a mom. And that's a really important part of my life. But what I didn't expect was I really wasn't able to go back into my teaching position as I had planned. A lot had happened around 2008, 3 art teachers down to 1 per building. And I really had to reinvent myself. So I learned what I didn't know about business, and I made a full-time job out of my fine art, and I branded myself. I was always a jeweler and had done metalsmithing in school, and I had my own jewelry line, and I quickly rose with some success with those other types of careers, but I wasn't happy. So long story short, I wasn't happy. I returned to teaching, and I got my feet wet in 2015 in a charter school in Yonkers. And, that position was kind of shifting. There wasn't a full-time load of teaching art. I had taken on some other duties. And when I saw an opening at Rockland BOCES for an art teacher, I kind of did some nail biting if I was up to the task of teaching special needs children. I do have a certificate in DBT, so that made me a qualified candidate, which is dialectical behavior therapy. Mm-hmm. For all you SEL, lovers out there. And I made the switch. So I just finished my first year at BOCES, and I loved it. And in the winter, I began these classes, to get my SBL and my SDL. And the reason why I went into the program is because I always have felt that I could do more. I've always seemed to have put my foot in the puddle, have raised my hand, and found myself on committees, at the charter school, because you didn't need the same certifications. I was able to do more and mentor some other teachers and do some grant writing and some other responsibilities outside of the art room. And that really, when this opportunity came up, I really couldn't put it off any longer. It really was the perfect timing. I didn't have any more excuses, and I needed to do this thing for real.
Well, good for you. And so you had some real time away from education. You were out of the classroom. Is that almost 10 years? Did I get the math right
Yeah,
there?
absolutely. Yeah, I'm not good at math, but yeah, definitely. It was a good stint that I was away. And, I tried subbing, it was very hard to get back in. And, when you take that leave, you lose seniority, and a bunch of us girls had come in at once. And so there really wasn't much of a position for me to go back to. And it forced me
Sure.
to be very resourceful. And
Hmm.
going into business as an artist is not something that art school really prepares you for either, to make a living doing what you love. And so I have a lot of ideas now about, what maybe we're lacking in the school system and in the preparation of, our talented visual artists to prepare them for continuing to do art professionally. How are we preparing them for careers in art?
Yeah.
There's a bit of a gap, absolutely.
And I always see a difference, April, between teachers that have their own children and those that don't have their own children. Teachers that have worked in other areas of life or have been away from teaching and have come back, they have a different perspective on things, certainly when they were in the field that they are now teaching about.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, in business in general, I took Marie Forleo's B School. I don't know if you're familiar with her. It's a whole entrepreneurship world. I mean, you have access to her interviews with Seth Godin, Simon Sinek, all of the great guys and girls. So the inspiration is endless. And what I brought back to teaching when I came back is I stood in front of those kids, and they are my clients. I stand in front of my principal, and I'm going to solve her problems. The parents come to my door, they ring my phone, and it's all I'm going to think about is how I'm going to be of help and service to them. And that hasn't shifted. That has been probably the biggest change in the career jumper for me, and coming back to education from a business mind.
Yeah. Well, that's great perspective, April. And again, we have some people tuned in live. If you are watching live, don't hesitate to put a question to April or myself to get yourself involved in the show. April, what are some of the things, you've been in the program now over a year? What are some of the things that you have learned about leadership or kind of have opened your mindset to after going through this program for a year?
I wonder why someone becomes a principal. I wonder why. I've heard from people and professors that it was the happiest years of their life. Absolutely. And at the same time, when I look at the demands of being a principal, if I had to list all of the responsibilities, if this were a position at IBM, and I had to put it up on the wall with all of the other positions, I would say, oh my God, that position's the sucker punch. So I really ask a lot of questions of the professors who come in who have been principals. What kind of a culture change is it for me as a business decision first, right? So, as far as the pay, as far as what happens to your vacation days, now you're a 12-month employee. You don't get those extra 2 months even added onto your TRS. So like you start to add up, this isn't the job it was 15, 20, 25 years ago. I know people who've retired in the past 5, 10 years with APPRs coming along going, better you guys than us. That it just has become so overwhelming. And so I had one person describe to me being a principal as middle management, basically, about how difficult it is that you just can't go and do anything you want to do, that with all of the compliance pressures that you have underneath you and above you, this is a very demanding role. So, my line has been like, is this a commercial for how to not be a school leader?
Yeah.
Like people are doing their due diligence in portraying the immense amount of responsibility correctly. And yet the crazy satisfaction you get, versus, right, what's my other option? I can max out at the pay scale. By spring, I'll be master's 60. I can collect my years, and I can walk out the door at 3:00 and hit the switch. And my life is my own.
Yeah.
I'm not coming in nights and weekends, right? My life is my own. Why? And I already have a little bit of my own answer. What would cause me to leave the classroom? So this is kind of what I'm weighing, and this is what I'm getting out of going through all of these classes about leadership, is that it is an immense responsibility. yet there's something special about the people who commit to it that they can't help themselves. And I think the answer is different for each person. And I'm searching myself if I can really make that commitment, because I wonder, is it the point of no return? Do you get into a position and then do you go back to teaching if it's not for you?
Yeah.
I don't always see a lot of people making that U-turn, so I don't know if that's viable. So like, how much do I really have to take out my crystal ball and figure out ahead of time?
Yeah. And you're sharing a lot of perspective there, April, and those are decisions that you're going to make in a year when you get certified. But your love of teaching is evident. But there's a lot of good that you can do. And don't believe everything you hear, right? Because just like there's great artists out there, and then you hear there's the starving artist that's waiting tables, but then there's some terrific ones too. It's the same thing for being principals and leaders, and there's so much you can do with it. My sister is watching. Suzanne's a school leader herself, and she has a question here. What is your biggest takeaway from your transition, leaving school and then returning, to K-12 education? What's your biggest takeaway?
Oh, when I took the years out and I came back.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. I forgot the sheer joy. I forgot the sheer joy I have in standing up in front of a captive audience of 30 kids because I'm a storyteller, and I forgot about that. I mean, there is something about being in a building with children that is, and I guess I would still get this as a school leader, but I get to talk with them and listen to them and their stories, the things they say, you just can't make up. So when I came back, I really forgot the joy I have of just being with kids, period. I knew I'm a teacher. I was a teacher. I was a successful teacher. So I came back to it, but I forgot about how amazing they can make me feel, how important they can make me feel. They make me feel that if I'm not there, I'm going to be missed. And I don't know that I could say that. I mean, I live in New York, south of the Tappan Zee Bridge. And, I say to my husband, do you think else on the Sawmill Rover gives a shit who I am? But when I walk through that cafeteria, they're like freaking out. Mrs. DeMarco, I feel like a rock star. And when I came back, that was the first thing that really had an impression on me. And of course, so much had changed. I looked at a smart board, hand to God. I looked at a smart board and I was like, what the hell is that? What is that? I had no idea what that was. When I left, I had a black board with white chalk. So a lot absolutely changed.
Wow, that is really funny. I don't have a beep button here, April, on the show here. Your New York ways are coming out on the show, but it's all good. My friend Deanna Stevenson is watching, April, and she wrote here. I don't know. Can you see the comments, April? Are you able to see them?
No.
Okay. I thought you would. But she said that the impact is greater, that you have the relationship with these kids that you just talked about. But as a school leader, you can have a greater impact on more lives because now you're helping with the building culture and design and programs and people. And there's so many things along the way. So that's a decision that you'll have to make, down the road. And you can always turn around, right? You can't just say, well, if I do it, I can't ever go back to teaching. You absolutely could. But that's Deanna gave some perspective there.
There's been a couple of people who have very recently made me feel like I absolutely can't do it. And I'm not, don't mean to embarrass you, but you are one of those people. You're one of the two people since I've been in the program that make me feel like I can do it. And because you're very different here than in your workshop, and if you've taken Andrew's workshop, that he's very energetic and your personality comes through and you're you. And I saw watching you be you and true to your personality and your style that maybe there's room for me to be me.
That's the way you have to lead. Absolutely.
It was a turning point, right? It's not leadership unless you believe in what you're doing. And it was a turning point because I'm very different than my principals and who she is in her personality. Now I'm very different than the mentors, who were supervising my internship. My personality is different. And so I don't see myself doing what they do or being them. When I role play in my mind, if I can be that role of a principal or, another leader. But you were the first one. And then my instructor, now I really have to say, Dr. Zaheda, like you're not traditional in respect to the other people that I've been exposed to right now while going through this course.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, April, and I appreciate that. That leads me to the next question. So, I offered to the session there was probably about 75 people saying, hey, if you're interested in coming on my podcast, reach out to me. And not very many people take me up on that offer. And you did that. And that says something about your character and your willingness to try new things. So what was it that made you say, like, yeah, Andrew, I would like to come on the podcast?
I really wanted to have this conversation because I think there's a lot of people who are going through these cohorts. There is an administration shortage. And so there's a lot that goes on. And I just wanted to open this up to those, who are listening and thinking about taking on the work. You may be dealing with your family, raising a young family. My children are older. My son is 20. My daughter's 16. It's the right time for me. I have a lot of free time. That's not an understatement. I don't have the demands at home that I used to, but while working full time, you have to take the grad classes and then soon the internship kicks in. So I just thought it would be a worthy dialogue because I think most of the people in the room were already an assistant principal, in leadership, maybe as a chairperson or a department head. I think you surveyed the room pretty round robin. And I think that there was room for a voice to talk about these things and to have these open, honest questions because it's not just a business decision, as I led to opening up before. That's the first part. The first part, it is a business decision. The second part it's like this personal, this shift, this personal devotion. I've got to, if I'm going to make this choice, I have to be personally devoted to what I'm doing. So that's a little bit more that interpersonal journey, that goes beyond opportunity.
Absolutely. April, you mentioned the internship, and I opened the show with that. I've had a number of interns and some things that I like to do for those people. Do you have that set up, and do you know who that's going to be with, and what are you looking forward to in that internship?
So I have a mentor now for the summer for my district level internship. So a certain number of those 710 hours for New York State have got to be at district level, a minimum of 100 of them. And the rest are going to be building level. Mm-hmm. So I networked and I introduced myself to people in the area. And I am not doing my district level internship at Rockland BOCES where I teach during the school year. BOCES is such a specific type of agency, right? It's very unique in its structures that I wanted some experience at a traditional school district, to open up possibilities for me just to have more applicable knowledge of the big, because we have to deal with like 25 other school districts when these children come to our building as a part of the BOCES program. Mm-hmm. So I'm at Irvington School District, Union Free School District here in Irvington, New York for this summer. And the trick about the summer is there's a lot of people who are gone on vacation. I'm working under my mentor is Dr. Raina Kaur. It's a very small district, so she's both the assistant superintendent for human resources and instruction. And she is a class act. She's getting ready to retire at the end of the year. So I'm really watching someone who is so impactful, so certain in what she knows, has a history with the district, has been involved in many of the different buildings, and has a confidence and a finesse that, I can't even imagine I could earn or buy. So I'm a little intimidated to see the scope of her job as an assistant superintendent, with her hand in everything. She has to be very decisive. Time management is one, I see her move. And I said to her, I think the second or third day, I said, I don't think I've ever seen you eat. Like, I'm like 11:30 and I'm like, my stomach is like, I got to get something. I'm going to go lunch. I'm going to go. It wasn't until like after the first several days that she's, I have to eat in people's faces all the time because this is no break and work. It's just all work. Yeah. And she's a workhorse. She absolutely is. And I think the district is going to miss her. So Dr. Kaur, she doesn't like to be called that. Raina is my mentor, and she knows I can talk, and she knows I can do a lot. And I have this willingness to show what I know and to be so eager to be helpful. So she has put me in a very challenging role. She's excellent at reading me. My job mostly, I have some tasks, but my job mostly is to observe. There is such great value in this, and I'm going to tell you one of the things we're not prepared for, even in teaching, is working with other adults, managing other adults. Even as a teacher in this special needs community, every 36 minutes, I have 4 different adults come in my room. And Marada, there is nothing when you go to school for your teaching certificate that teaches you how to manage other adults. It's awkward, right? Because you're not their boss, you're not my boss, but you need to be the instructional leader in the room and manage the aides and the TAs and the clinicians that comes in and all the distractions that happen. So, because I'm at this unique school, there's a lot of staff that is not the teacher. And I need to be able to manage them all in the room, to make use of them and to set the tone. And so that has been a little bit of a stepping stone, because moving into a leadership position, even if I were a visual art chair or the arts department chairperson, or, even if my district doesn't have a person in that role now, even if they were interested, what you're not prepared for is managing other adults. And that is difficult. So by moving into an observational role where I'm watching the exchange of how she communicates in a way that her feedback is taken, that she really adjusts. She knows who she's talking to and how they need to hear things. It's masterful. Yeah. This is the best quality experience I possibly could be getting. And nowhere really in our curriculum or in our classes is anybody telling you about these things or talking about them. They're not even on checklists, really, other than generally observe, but really trying to know that you could role play, disagreeing with another adult professional. We all know the right words that we're supposed to be doing, but once you have to step up and to agree to disagree, or be in awkward conversations with other adults, are not a teacher in a room just with children, correcting children and guiding children. It's the marked difference for me in one of those transitions and roles. Yeah.
And who will you go with, April, once the school year starts? Will you go into a building and work with someone different, or it'll be with Raina the whole time?
Hilltop, teaching at Hilltop. I'll return to my classroom, teaching at Hilltop. So in the course of the day, before school, after school, during, lunch, there are some things that I'm going to take on that I'll be under the mentorship of my school principal, Dr. Christine DeTrano. So she's been there about 4 years, and she has a long history with BOCES before then. But she's been with Hilltop for 4 years. I finished 1 year with her, and I'm going to be in a little bit more space of confidence for the school year because it's my home base. I have more, connections there, and I know everybody, and everybody's much more familiar. It's easier to feel at home. But Dr. DeTrano also knows that she can give me something and I'm going to turn it around quickly and I'm going to over deliver, so if you saw the end of your art show, you would know what I mean by over deliver. It was like a bonanza, so that's one of the ways that I make a commitment when I meet her, is that I'm going to listen to what she needs, not how I think I can help her. And I'm going to make sure it's a priority to get it back to her and in abundance. So she has come to learn this through our experiences interacting. So she's given me some great projects where I can, like you say, go and just fly. Just let me do it. and let's see what I come up with. She's not into hand holding to begin with. So it's going to be more interactive in that sense in the fall and spring.
Very cool. And I wish you good luck. And if I could help you at all, April, please certainly reach out. But what I would tell you about the adults, take the word manage out of your vocabulary, because adults don't want to be managed and you don't want to be a manager.
Correct.
You want to lead people. You want to inspire people, and you want them to follow you because of your leadership. So I would remove that from your vocabulary and how can I lead these people? How can I inspire them? How can I want more people to come in my classroom and watch me teach and watch me interact, because they're learning, because they feel good, all of those things. So in your course of this, your internship and your teaching and your learning and all of that, managing, leading.
That's a shift. That's a huge shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. April, you were so candid when we spoke, and you're also in our pre-show work here, sharing some challenges that you had growing up. And I had asked about some successes. I had asked about some failures and, things that you've learned from. And, you shared about breaking the cycle of a rough upbringing, foster home. You had mentioned to me about that you've lost a tremendous amount of weight too. Those are some pretty sensitive topics that I was, proud of you for sharing. Is there one that you do want to speak on that you've overcome and that you're, extremely proud of?
All these things are who I am. So I don't really shy away from owning them. I share them at the right opportunity. And in a space like this, I only hope that what I say can really help somebody else when they need it the most. So, I think a lot of people come from have their stories and come from a less than ideal upbringing. And I'm just going to say this is that it helps me relate with extreme compassion and empathy to every walk of life and person who I pass. I don't take it for granted that anybody could, or don't know, strangers, children in the school, the parents, that what they could be struggling with. So, I think that's pretty universal, but I'll talk more specifically about losing 100 pounds, because there's a lot more than weight loss that occurred for me, in that I was the only female on earth, perhaps, that gave birth to my son and then continued to gain weight. And I was very frustrated. I was very sad. I was very depressed. I had a lot of stress. I was very overwhelmed as a new mother. And here my body's just like, just rebelling against me. And I think I topped out at 232 pounds.
Wow.
And I had to make a commitment to bettering myself. And this really, everybody knows that an apple is better for you than a Snickers bar. I had to peel away the layers. And, people say, I have a goal. I want to lose 5 pounds. That's not a goal. That's an outcome, right? Let's go to our friend Covey, right? That's an outcome. The goal is that I am going to eat healthy and I'm going to walk on that treadmill an hour every day, right? And I'm going to do that for 3 months. So what I had to uncover was my patterns of self-sabotage. Because if you're old enough to tie your shoes, these are the only two hands putting food in your mouth. And a lot of people are unhappy with a little of this or a little that. And it wasn't a matter of vanity. I clearly was unhealthy. So what I had learned, the biggest thing that I learned to achieve my goal is I learned to break the cycle of quitting. I learned to shorten the cycle of quitting. So let me explain what that means. So often people start a diet Monday morning by 10:30 coffee break. They forget they were on the diet and they put a donut in their mouth, with some coffee at break time. Oh, I'll start next Monday. So what I started to do is whenever I found myself, going, not being successful, is that I would try to shorten that cycle of quitting and instead of waiting till next Monday morning, like there was something magical about Monday morning, right? We think like these little unilateral contracts. I only can start a diet Monday morning. I would wait to start the next day as an opportunity to begin again. And it really has a lot to do with self-forgiveness, that I don't need to punish myself or have some day of attrition where I'm not going to eat anything but carrot sticks all day long because I indulged last night while I was out. That if somehow I couldn't just be enough to start again and let the past go. So these are huger lessons that I had to learn. And eventually, when I became an expert in what works for me, and it was frustrating in my weight loss journey. It took 9 years to lose 100 pounds. And that was probably, I was even too thin for my frame then. Now, I've been a lot heavier. I've been a lot thinner. Now I'm just medium, beautifully, blissfully medium. What I had learned about blood sugar is that really every few hours, every 2-3 hours, you have a chance to reset your blood sugar. And so I would take a piece of information like that and I would hold on to it, that the very next meal would be a chance for me to begin again. I didn't need to wait a whole nother day. I didn't need to wait another week. I didn't need to wait until next month after Aunt Gloria's, wedding or her big party. That there was always something, an event in my life that was going to come up that I wanted to be healthy and feel happy at, and have self-pride and feel confidence that comes with taking care of yourself. That this wasn't like milestone related. So I shortened that cycle of quitting so that it really became behaviors that were then just self-perpetuating to keep going. You see, so it went from quitting to now it was just the next chance of keep going and getting better, because that I just let go of all of feeling the time when you needed to feel bad about when I would mess up. There's that quote, I think it's Seth Godin, that if failure is not an option, then neither is success. So in dieting, I know sometimes around leadership people, I'm supposed to use the word failure, but if I felt like I had failed or if I had gone off the program, there was so much else, this all this stuff I would dump down on myself. See, I'm trying not to use bad language here. So right, all the shame, all the embarrassment, so I had to learn how to move forward and let things go imperfectly.
Yeah. That is a great story, April, and you can use that leadership lesson, shortening the cycle of quitting. That's powerful, and that's a real candid story. And kudos to you and your family for doing that. I hope you inspired a lot of people with that story. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's powerful. Shortening the cycle of quitting. That's I have not heard that, and that's pretty good. April, we are running out of time here. It's amazing how fast the program goes. We're up to the rapid fire portion of the show. These are quick answers. What comes first to your head? Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Last book you read?
Yours.
Nice. Last movie you saw?
Women of a Certain Age.
Okay. You give the thumbs up?
Yes. Well, specific audiences. It's a Showtime comedy special for women of a certain age. So it's if that's if you
favorite place to travel?
Key West.
Nice. Jimmy Buffett action. Greatest challenge in your work?
Last names.
Really?
It's not the greatest challenge. That is a challenge for me. In any school, I could be seeing 800 kids. So I know I need to get better at last names. It's a challenge. It's one just everyone knows me. I'm terrible with names.
Something that motivates you is
being helpful, an opportunity to be helpful.
Nice. A pet peeve of yours?
Yelling at kids, treating them disrespectfully, using sarcasm when adults use sarcasm with children.
That's important. That's a great answer. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life?
It's just a notebook journal. So it just has to be one that fits your hand that you're going to use. It has to be the right feel, the right shape. Mine has this little strappy thing in it. I must have 10 of these. Wow. And what I use it for is I use it to journal what I eat. I keep track of what I eat, and it's really not about the food a lot for me. It's about a mindfulness activity and a way to stay connected, to my day and what I'm doing, and making sure that I'm taking care of myself. So this is a health journal. I don't really, it's not so much about dieting any for me, but this is the main way that I can provide self-care for myself. So this keeps me accountable, under $10.
Good for you. Something that about April DeMarco that people do not know about.
I ran a half marathon and I hated it. I learned I hate running.
A short-term personal or professional goal, 3 to 5 months.
I am in the next 3 to 5 months, I'm going to be amping up my classroom lessons. I'm absolutely, this is my sophomore year at Hilltop, and I'm like right now that I have a feel of what I'm doing, I'm into being uber prepared. So I actually was in the classroom today. I went back to Hilltop and I started to lay out all the minutia that you wish you had with you in a lesson. Now that I have a sense of what I did, the first year is like a blur. So now it's like super uber preparedness. So in the next 3 to 5 months, I actually already have planned out my lessons of what I'm doing.
Good for you. 3 to 5 years, a long-term goal.
I think that my goal is not to settle and not to be worried about being safe career-wise. I think my goal is that whatever I choose to do is that I'm remembering it's my choice. That I don't have to stay in the classroom. I don't have to, move into an assistant principalship, that I'm going to continue to challenge myself no matter what it is.
Yeah. April, you did a great job on the program here. If people wanted to reach out to you, if they had questions about your program, if they wanted to ask you about weight loss, what would be the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
They can email me at DeMarco House, my last name plus the word house, DeMarco House at optonline.net.
OPT?
OPT, optonline.net.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. We like to end with a quote and/or a book recommendation. I know we shared a few before the show. What is a favorite quote that you can leave our listeners, April?
This quote is great because I struggle with this because I'm one of those people who tries to get along with everybody. And this quote is that be the sweetest, juiciest peach in Georgia, and you're still going to find someone who doesn't like peaches.
That's true. And the author you said is unknown?
Author unknown. And my book recommendation would be Fewer Things Better by Angela Watson. That she wrote this book for teachers is an absolute act of service. Fantastic read.
Fewer Things Better. Cool.
Focus, focus, focus.
Cool. Fewer Things Better. I'm going to jot that down. April, you did a great job. I wish you the best in your internship, you and your classmates, that you continue to learn and continue to grow. And as my sister wrote here, Suzanne Carbonero, follow your passion. You'll know if there's the right job there. You'll know if you want to do it. But just like coming on this podcast, you just put yourself out there and you kind of go with it, right?
I did. Thank you for the opportunity very much.
Yeah, very good. This is April DeMarco, everyone, an art educator, a school leader, and certainly inspiring with your stories today. April, thanks so much. We're going to get this music queued up here. We're going to sign off here on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. At Andrew Murata 21 is my Twitter. You can find April on Facebook. She's also on Instagram. But thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Continue to go out and do great work in your schools and your communities. Thanks for tuning in. You stay on the line.